He-Jin stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror, counting slowly to 10. Her dark hair fell messily around her face, and her school uniform was wrinkled from when Da-hyun had pushed her against the lockers. The fluorescent lights made the small red mark on her cheek look worse than it was. "You're fine," she whispered to herself. "Just 3 more hours until school ends." Outside, the hallway buzzed with students heading to their next class. He-Jin splashed cold water on her face one last time and stepped out, keeping her head down. She had learned that looking down made her less of a target. "Hey, Space Cadet." Da-hyun's voice rang out. "Had another chat with your alien friends?" He-Jin walked faster, clutching her books tighter to her chest. She didn't understand why the headaches and strange dreams made her different. Sometimes, when she looked at the night sky, she saw patterns that weren't there, battle formations, and fleet movements that made no sense on Earth. "Leave her alone, Da-hyun." Jae-ho stepped between them. He wasn't tall or strong, but he stood his ground like a shield. "Don't you have anything better to do?" Da-hyun laughed. "Protecting your girlfriend. Or maybe you're one of her imaginary alien soldiers too." He-Jin slipped into her history classroom, while Jae-ho kept Da-hyun distracted. She found her usual seat at the back, next to the window. From here, she could see the sky and daydream without anyone noticing. Mr. Park was teaching about World War II strategies today. As he drew battle plans on the whiteboard, He-Jin felt a familiar pressure building behind her eyes. The classroom began to fade. Asterisk. The fleet needs to move in a spiral pattern. Asterisk. She thought automatically. Asterisk. That's how you break a superior forces formation. Split them up then. Asterisk. He-Jin, are you with us? She blinked. The class was staring at her. She had stood up without realizing it, her hand raised as if giving orders to an invisible army. I'm sorry," she mumbled, sinking back into her chair as laughter rippled through the room. Space Cadets at it again. "Did the aliens give you new orders? Quick, save us from the invasion." Mr. Park called for quiet, but He-Jin saw him hiding a smile. Even the teachers thought she was strange. During lunch, she sat with Jae-ho at their usual table in the corner of the cafeteria. He was the only one who didn't laugh at her episodes. "You had another one, didn't you?" he asked, sharing his cookies with her. "In history class." He-Jin nodded, picking at her food. "It felt so real, Jae-ho. I saw thousands of ships, all moving together like dancers. I knew exactly how to command them." She lowered her voice. "Sometimes I think I'm going crazy." "You're not crazy," Jae-ho said firmly. "You're just different, and different isn't bad." From across the cafeteria, Mina watched them quietly. She always watched the Jin, especially during her episodes. Unlike the others, there was no judgment in her eyes, only curiosity. The rest of the day passed slowly. In physics class, when they studied gravity, He-Jin had to grip her desk to stop herself from correcting the teacher about how gravity actually worked in deep space combat. These thoughts scared her. She had never been in space, so how could she know these things? After school, He-Jin waited until most students had left before heading home. But Da-hyun and his friends were waiting by the gate. "Hey aliens, your ambassador is here," they called out, laughing. He-Jin turned to take the long way home, but stopped. For a moment, she saw something else overlaid on the scene. A tactical display, showing enemy positions and the safest route of retreat. Her head pounded. "He-Jin." Jae-ho appeared at her side. "I'll walk with you." As they walked home together, He-Jin looked up at the afternoon sky. Somewhere in her mind, she saw giant ships moving through the darkness between stars. She saw battles and victories and sacrifices. She saw a woman in a uniform giving orders that saved millions. "Jae-ho," she said quietly, "do you ever feel like you're remembering things that haven't happened yet?" Her friend looked at her thoughtfully. "No," he said, "but maybe that's what makes you special." He-Jin smiled slightly. Special wasn't the word most people used for her. But today, watching the clouds drift overhead, she allowed herself to wonder if maybe, just maybe, her differences meant something more than being the class freak. The headache came again, stronger this time. And with it, a single clear thought. Asterisk, the fleet is coming asterisk. The next day started like any other, but it wouldn't end that way. Jin sat in the school library during lunch, hiding from Da-hyun and his friends. Jae-ho was absent today, home with a cold, and she felt more alone than usual. She was reading a book about space when the first clear memory hit her. It started with a smell, burning metal and ozone. The library disappeared. Instead of books, she saw stars. Instead of her school uniform, she wore a white commander's outfit with gold stripes on the shoulders. She was no longer Jin, the weird girl. She was Admiral Sunme, and her fleet was burning. "Look who's here, all alone," a voice broke through her vision. Da-hyun stood over her table, flanked by two other boys. "Reading about your home planet." Jin tried to stand, but they pushed her back down. Her book fell to the floor. "Please," she said, "leave me alone." But something was different today. As Da-hyun reached for her book, Jin saw two things at once: the school library and a massive battle bridge. In her mind, red warning lights flashed. Enemy ships were closing in. Asterisk, deploy defensive formation Delta. Asterisk, a voice in her head commanded. It was her voice, but older, stronger. Without thinking, Jin moved. She slid under Da-hyun's arm exactly as Sunme had once slipped her flagship through an enemy blockade. She spun around them, her movements precise and practiced, though she had never fought a day in her life. "What the—" Da-hyun stumbled, surprised by her sudden grace. Jin stood at the library entrance, her heart pounding. The memories flooded in faster now. She remembered commanding a fleet of 300 ships. She remembered saving thousands of lives with quick decisions. She remembered being respected, being feared. "How did you move like that?" Minna's quiet voice came from behind a bookshelf. She had seen everything. Jin couldn't answer. Her head was spinning with new memories. She saw a great hall filled with alien leaders signing a peace treaty. She saw herself as Sunme, standing tall despite her wounds, demanding freedom for Earth. She ran. She ran through the school halls, past surprised teachers and students. Every step brought new memories. The cold floor under her feet became the metal deck of a starship. The school's fluorescent lights transformed into the glow of distant stars. She finally stopped at the school's roof. The autumn wind cooled her face as she gasped for air. Above her, the blue sky seemed different now. She could name the stars hidden behind the daylight. She knew which ones had planets, which ones had seen battles. "I remember," she whispered to the sky. "I remember everything." Images flashed through her mind. A massive space station exploding. Alien ships retreating. The cheers of human crews celebrating their first victory. And always, always, the weight of command on her shoulders. "Jin?" Minna had followed her to the roof. "Are you okay?" Jin turned to look at her classmate. For a moment, Minna's concerned face overlapped with the memory of a young officer from her past life. Someone who had trusted Sunme completely. "I'm—" Jin paused. Who was she now? Jin the student. Sunme the admiral. Both? "I'm remembering." Minna stepped closer. Remembering what? Before Jin could answer, her whole body tensed. A new memory surfaced. The most important one. She remembered why she had been reborn. Why these memories were returning now. "They're coming back," she said, her voice mixing with Sunme's deeper tones. "The Stellar Concordat. They're coming to find Earth again." Minna didn't laugh like the others would have. Instead, she watched Jin with thoughtful eyes. "You're different today," she said simply. "You stand like a soldier." Jin looked down at herself. Her shoulders were straight, her chin high, the posture of an admiral, not a bullied schoolgirl. The memories had changed more than just her mind. "Minna," she said slowly, "would you believe me if I told you I used to be someone else? Someone who fought wars among the stars?" The quiet girl smiled. "I always knew you were more than what they said about you." She pointed up at the sky. "Tell me about the stars, Admiral." For the first time in her life as Hujin, she felt whole. The memories weren't just dreams or madness. They were who she had been, who she might need to be again. Above them, hidden by the blue sky, a fleet of alien ships moved closer to Earth, unaware that their greatest enemy had finally remembered who she was. The memory came to Hujin clearly now as she sat with Minna during lunch break. It was the Battle of New Seoul, 300 years ago. The battle that changed everything. Admiral Sunmai stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Star Defender. The ship's dark metal walls glowed with red warning lights. On the main screen, thousands of enemy ships filled the space around New Seoul Colony. "They have us outnumbered 5-1, Admiral," her second-in-command said. Sunmai smiled. "Numbers aren't everything, Captain Tawu." She pointed to the screen. "Look at their formation. They think they're stronger. That makes them careless." The Stellar Concordat ships were beautiful but proud, their silver hulls shaped like giant arrows, each one bigger than the largest human ship. They had ruled space for 10,000 years. They thought humans were too young, too weak to fight back. "All ships, this is Admiral Sunmai." She spoke into the fleet comm. Her voice was calm, just like Hujin's voice when she answered hard questions in class. "Remember your training. Remember Earth. Remember why we fight." The human fleet was smaller, darker, less pretty, but Sunmai had spent years preparing for this day. She knew every ship, every captain, every weapon. She had trained them all. "Begin Operation Starburst," she ordered. The human fleet split into 5 groups. The enemy admiral laughed, thinking they were retreating. His ships moved forward to attack. But Sunmai had planned this perfectly. As the enemy fleet spread out to chase her ships, gaps appeared in their formation. Small gaps, but enough. "Now," she commanded. Human ships turned sharply, their engines burning bright. They didn't retreat. Instead, they drove straight into the gaps in the enemy line. Like water flowing through cracks in a wall, they split the enemy fleet into pieces. "Impossible." The enemy admiral's voice boomed through the command channel. "You primitive humans can't." "We're not primitive." Sunmai cut him off. "We're survivors. And we learn fast." The battle turned quickly. Cut into smaller groups, the enemy ships couldn't protect each other. Sunmai's fleet attacked from all sides. When one enemy ship exploded, its flash lit up space like a new star. "Admiral," Captain Tadwi shouted. "Their flagship is trying to escape." Sunmai leaned forward in her command chair. The enemy flagship was huge, beautiful, and now very alone. Its silver hull reflected the light of battle as it turned to run. "Not today," Sunmai said quietly. "Star Defender, full power to engines. All weapons ready." Her ship chased the enemy flagship. Both ships danced through space, firing weapons that lit up the darkness. Sunmai's hands moved over her controls like she was playing music. Each move was perfect, planned, precise. The enemy admiral was good, but Sunmai was better. She had learned to fight when her colony was destroyed. She had practiced in simulators while others slept. She had studied every battle in human history. "Target locked," her weapons officer reported. "Fire." The Star Defender's main weapon fired a beam of light brighter than a sun. It cut through the enemy flagship's shields like they weren't there. The huge ship split in half, its silver hull turning red, then black. "Enemy flagship destroyed," Captain Tawu announced. "The rest of their fleet is running." The bridge crew cheered. Sunmai stood up, looking at the view screen. New Seoul Colony was safe. For the first time, humans had beaten the Concordat in a major battle. But she knew this was just the beginning. Back in the present, Hejin blinked. The school cafeteria came back into focus. Minna was watching her with wide eyes. "You really were there," Minna whispered. "You really fought them." Hejin nodded slowly. "Yes, and now I know why I'm back." She looked out the window at the peaceful sky. "They're coming again, but this time, we'll be ready." Minna touched her arm gently. "How can I help?" Hejin smiled, remembering how Captain Tawu had asked the same question long ago. "First, we need to talk to Jio." Then she stood up straighter, her body remembering the Admiral's posture. "Then we prepare." Above them, hidden by blue sky and clouds, the stars waited. And somewhere among those stars, silver ships were moving, coming to finish what they had started 300 years ago. Hejin woke up screaming in the middle of the night. The memory was too strong, too painful. She saw it all again. Her last battle as Admiral Sunmai at the gates of tomorrow. Her mother rushed into the room. "Hejin, what's wrong?" But Hejin couldn't answer. In her mind, she was back on the burning bridge of the Star Defender. Emergency lights flashed red. Smoke filled the air. Around her ship, the final battle of the war rage. "Hull breach on decks 3 through 7, Captain Tawu reported, his voice steady even now. "We can't take much more, Admiral." Sunmai stood at her command post, ignoring the blood running down her face from a cut on her forehead. On the main screen, she watched the massive Concordat mothership approach Earth. It was huge, bigger than a city, and it carried enough weapons to destroy everything humans had built in space. "All ships that can still fly," she ordered, "form up on the Star Defender. Everyone else, retreat to Earth." "Admiral," Tawu said quietly, "there's no way to stop that ship. Not without." "I know." Sunma smiled sadly. "But we knew this day might come. Is the Corps ready?" Taiwu's face went pale. "Admiral, no, there has to be another way." In the present, Hejin clutched her blanket, tears running down her face. Her mother held her, confused and worried. As the memory continued, the Star Defender's core was special. Sunmai had ordered it built in secret. If overloaded, it could create a small black hole, just for a few seconds, but long enough to end the war. "All ships except Star Defender, retreat to safe distance," Sunmai ordered. Then she turned to her crew. "Everyone to the escape pods. That's an order." "We won't leave you," Tawu said. "You will." Sunma's voice was firm. "Earth needs defenders. It will need you again someday." She watched her crew leave, each one saluting as they went. Soon she was alone on the bridge. The mothership grew larger on her screen. "This is Admiral Sunmai of the Human Liberation Fleet." She broadcast on all channels. "You came to our home. You thought we were weak. You were wrong." She started the core overload. The ship shuddered. The enemy admiral's voice came through, arrogant to the end. "You primitives cannot stop us. We will return. We will." "No," Sunmai said calmly. "You won't. Not in this life." She pushed her engines to full power. The Star Defender, burning and broken, flew straight at the mothership's heart. "For Earth," she whispered, and pressed the final button. Light brighter than 1,000 suns filled space. The black hole opened, small but hungry. Both ships vanished into its darkness. The war was over. In the present, Hejin's tears finally stopped. Her mother was still holding her, worried and confused. "I'm okay now," Hejin said softly. "It was just a dream." But it wasn't just a dream. After her mother left, Hejin got up and went to her window. The night sky was clear, filled with stars. Her phone buzzed. Text messages from both Minna and Jeho. "Minna, I felt something too. A great sadness. Was it the final battle?" Jeho, "Had a strange dream about spaceships. Need to talk tomorrow." Hejin texted back, "Yes, Meet me before school. I remember everything now. She touched the window glass, looking at her reflection. For a moment, she saw both faces, young He-Jin and Admiral Sunmei, both determined, both ready to protect Earth. I died to save everyone, she whispered to the stars, but you brought me back. And this time, she stood straighter, her admiral's pride showing through. This time, I won't have to die to win. A shooting star crossed the sky. But He-Jin knew better now. That was no star. They were coming back. The Concordat had found Earth again. But this time, she had something she didn't have before, a second chance. And He-Jin promised herself that she wouldn't waste it. The next morning, He-Jin walked to school with her head held high. Jae-ho and Minna waited for her at the front gate. They could see something had changed in their friend. She moved differently now, like a soldier. You look better, Jae-ho said, smiling. I feel better, He-Jin replied. I understand everything now. Minna pointed to the sky. I watched the news this morning. Scientists saw strange lights near Mars. They think it's just space rocks, but it's them, He-Jin said quietly. They're testing our defenses, just like before. They walked into school together. For the first time, He-Jin didn't try to hide. She didn't look down at the floor. She remembered commanding armies, facing enemies 1,000 times stronger than school bullies. In class, she heard Da-hyun and his friends planning something. Their whispers carried across the room, but now she understood strategy. She could read their plan and their movements, just like she once read enemy fleet formations. They're going to try something at lunch, she told Jae-ho and Minna. They got people waiting in 3 places: the cafeteria, the east hallway, and near the gym. How can you know that? Jae-ho asked. He-Jin smiled. The same way I once knew where enemy ships would be. People follow patterns. They don't even know they're doing it. When lunchtime came, Da-hyun's trap was ready. They had planned to corner He-Jin, to dump water on her and steal her books. But He-Jin saw it all coming. She walked calmly through the hall, timing each step perfectly. When the first boy jumped out with a water bottle, she was already turning. The water missed her completely. What the? The boy stumbled, surprised. He-Jin moved like she was dancing. Every step had purpose. Every move was planned. In her mind, she saw it like a space battle. Paths of movement, points of attack, lines of retreat. She reached the cafeteria before Da-hyun's second group could get there. Other students watched, amazed, as she calmly bought her lunch and sat down, not in her usual hiding spot, but right in the middle of the room. How did you dodge everything? Minna asked, sitting next to her. They had it all planned out. Simple tactics, He-Jin explained. They think in straight lines. I think in 3 dimensions. She paused, remembering battles among the stars. When you've commanded a fleet, you learn to see all possible moves. Da-hyun wasn't done. He marched up to their table, angry that his plan had failed. Think you're so smart, he growled. You're still just the crazy girl who talks to aliens. He-Jin stood up slowly. The cafeteria went quiet. Everyone watched as she looked Da-hyun in the eye, not afraid anymore. You know what's interesting about bullies, Da-hyun, she said calmly. In every world, in every time, they're all the same. They only feel strong when others feel weak. For a moment, her voice carried the weight of command. Students around them sat straighter without knowing why. Even Da-hyun stepped back. I'm not weak, He-Jin continued. I never was. I just didn't remember my strength. Suddenly, every phone in the cafeteria buzzed at once. Everyone pulled out their phones, reading the news alert. Strange signals detected by space stations worldwide. Scientists puzzled by patterns in the static. He-Jin didn't need to look at her phone. She could feel it in her bones. The Concordat was getting closer. He-Jin, Jae-ho whispered, showing her his phone screen. These signal patterns, they look like fleet movements, she finished. They're coordinating their ships just like before. She touched her phone, feeling its simple technology. They think we're still primitive. They don't know how far we've come. Dahyun was still standing there, watching her with confusion and a hint of fear. He could sense the change in her, even if he didn't understand it. Go back to your friends, Dahyun, Jin said kindly. Soon, none of this will matter anyway. As he walked away, Minna leaned close to Jin. What do we do now? Jin looked up at the ceiling, seeing past it to the sky beyond. Somewhere up there, silver ships were gathering. But this time, Earth's greatest admiral was ready for them. Now, she said, we prepare for war. The news spread fast. All over the world, people watched their screens as strange objects appeared near Jupiter. Scientists called them anomalies. Jin knew better. She sat in her room, watching the blurry images while typing on her computer. What are you doing? Minna asked. She and Jiho had come over after school. Writing emails, Jin said, to every space agency and military command I can find. They need to know what's coming. Jiho looked over her shoulder at the screen. Will they believe you? They don't need to believe me, Jin said. They just need to read what I'm sending. Battle plans, defense strategies, things only Admiral Sunmai would know. She had spent all night writing everything down. How to detect Concordat cloaking devices, where their ship's weak points were, the patterns they used when attacking. 300 years hadn't changed their pride or their tactics. Minna pointed at the TV screen. Look, the news showed a new image. A clear shot of something huge in silver moving past Mars. Jin's heart beat faster. It was a Concordat scout ship, exactly like the one she remembered. They're not even trying to hide anymore, she said quietly. They want us to see them coming. They want us to be afraid. Her phone buzzed. An email reply from the Space Defense Force. Your tactical analysis is interesting. Who are you? How do you know these things? Jin smiled and typed back. Check the battle records from 300 years ago. Compare their movement patterns. You'll see I'm right. More emails arrived through the day. Military leaders worldwide were reading her advice. Some dismissed her, but others saw the truth in her words. Jin, Jiho said suddenly. Your old drawings. He pulled out a folder from his backpack. Inside were drawings Jin had made years ago, back when everyone thought she was just daydreaming. Pictures of silver ships, detailed sketches of weapons and battle formations. You were remembering even then, Minna said softly. You just didn't know it. Jin nodded. And now? A loud noise cut her off. Every phone, TV, and computer in the world beeped at once. The screens showed the same thing. A silver face with glowing eyes. People of Earth, the alien voice said, we are the stellar Concordat. Your world once defied us. That mistake will be corrected. Jin stood up, her body tense. She knew that face. The supreme commander of the Concordat looked exactly the same as 300 years ago. Your species has been allowed to develop too long, the commander continued. You will surrender your world and accept your proper place under our guidance. You have 3 Earth days to decide. The message ended. Jin's phone buzzed again. This time, it was a military general requesting an urgent video call. My name is General Park, the man said when Jin answered. Your tactical analyses, they match perfectly with what we just saw. We need your help. Jin sat straighter. Admiral Sunmi's memories giving her strength. The Concordat thinks humans are still primitive, but we've grown stronger. We can fight them if we prepare right. How can a high school student know all this? The general asked. Because I'm not just a student, Jin said. I am Admiral Sunmai, reborn, and I've beaten them before. There was a long pause. Then the general nodded slowly. After what we just saw, I'm willing to believe almost anything. What do you need? He-Jin looked at her friends, then back at the screen. A command center. Communication with all Earth's defense forces. And she smiled. A new ship. The Star Defender died to save Earth once. It's time for her to fly again. As she spoke, more alerts came in. The Concordat fleet was moving closer. Silver ships filled the space between Mars and Earth, their weapons ready. But this time, Earth's greatest admiral was awake and ready, and she had no intention of dying again. The first attack came during math class. He-Jin was solving equations when the school's emergency alarms started ringing. Outside, the sky turned from blue to purple as Concordat ships entered the atmosphere. Everyone to the shelter. Teachers shouted, "Stay calm and follow the evacuation plan." But the school's plan wouldn't work. He-Jin could see the alien ship's formation through the windows. They would cut off the path to the main shelter. She stood up on her desk. "Listen to me," she shouted. Her voice carried Admiral Sunmi's authority. "The main shelter is not safe. We need to go to the old gym basement instead." Students stared at her. Some laughed. But then Minna stood up too. "Trust her," Minna said. "She knows what she's doing." The first explosion shook the building. Through the windows, they saw a silver ship firing at the road to the main shelter, exactly where He-Jin said they would attack. "Follow me," He-Jin ordered. This time, nobody laughed. She led hundreds of students through the school halls. When debris blocked one path, she found another. When smoke filled a stairway, she guided them to a safe route. Every move was perfect, planned with a commander's skill. "How did you know?" Da-hyun asked as they reached the basement. He wasn't mocking her now. "Because I'd fought them before," He-Jin said simply. "And I remember everything." Her phone rang. It was General Park. "He-Jin, we need you at the command center now. A car is coming for you." "I can't leave," she said, watching her scared classmates. "These people need help." "The whole world needs your help," the general said. "You're the only one who knows how to fight them." He-Jin looked at Minna and Jiho. They nodded. "We'll take care of everyone here," Jiho promised. "Go," Minna added. "Do what you were reborn to do." A military car reached the school minutes later. As He-Jin ran to it, she saw more silver ships in the sky. They were attacking cities all over the world, testing Earth's defenses. At the command center, screens showed the battle happening around Earth. Concordat ships moved in familiar patterns, just like in He-Jin's memories. "They're using the same tactics," she told the generals gathered around her. "They haven't learned. They haven't changed. But we have." She stepped up to the main screen, pointing at the enemy formations. "See how they split their forces. They think we can't fight back. Use that. Hit them here and here. Modern weapons will work better than what we had 300 years ago." The generals listened. Orders went out. Earth's forces began to fight back, using He-Jin's knowledge to target weak points in the alien ships. "It's working," someone shouted as the first Concordat ship exploded over the Pacific Ocean. But He-Jin frowned. "This is too easy," she said. "They're not really trying yet. This is just." A new alarm sounded. A huge ship appeared behind Earth's moon, bigger than any they'd seen before. "The real attack is coming," He-Jin said. She closed her eyes, remembering battles from long ago. "We need the new Star Defender. Is it ready?" General Park nodded. "Built exactly to your specifications, but we've never tested a ship like this. The weapons, the engines, they're all based on your memories." "They'll work," He-Jin said confidently. "Because they worked before." She looked around the room at Earth's military leaders. 300 years ago, I died protecting Earth. I was reborn because this fight wasn't over. Now I need you to trust me, just like my fleet trusted me before." The room was quiet. Then General Park stood up straight and saluted her. "What are your orders, Admiral?" He-Jin smiled. For the first time, The two parts of her life felt perfectly joined, the schoolgirl and the admiral, working together to save her world again. First, she said, we show them that humans aren't primitive anymore. Then, her eyes hardened, we make sure they never threaten Earth again. Above them, the sky filled with silver ships. The real battle was about to begin. Hajin stood on the bridge of the new Star Defender, wearing a white commander's uniform. The ship felt both strange and familiar. Everything was new, modern screens, better weapons, faster engines, but the feeling was the same. This was home. All systems ready, Admiral, the ship's captain said. He was older than her, but he followed her orders without question. Everyone had seen what she could do. Show me the enemy fleet, Hajin ordered. The main screen lit up. Hundreds of silver Concordat ships filled space around Earth. They were beautiful and deadly, just like in her memories. They're forming the arrow of judgment, she said, recognizing the pattern. Same formation they used last time. They never learn. Her phone buzzed. A message from Minna. The school shelter is safe. Everyone's watching the news. Show them what you can do. Hajin smiled. Then another message came from Dahyun. We were wrong about you. Now go save the world. All ships, this is Admiral Hajin. She broadcast to Earth's fleet. Using both her names felt right now. Today we fight for our world again. But this time, we're stronger. This time, we have better ships, better weapons, and 300 years of human progress. She looked at the tactical display, seeing paths and patterns that only she could understand. Begin Operation New Dawn, she ordered. Earth's ships moved in perfect formation. They didn't run. They didn't hide. They flew straight at the enemy fleet. The Concordat commander's face appeared on her screen. So the little admiral is back, he said. You died once. You'll die again. No, Hajin said calmly. This time is different. This time I have something worth living for. She pressed a button, sending new orders to her fleet. The ships split into groups, but not like before. This was a new pattern, one she had created just for this day. What are you doing? The enemy commander demanded as Earth's ships moved in ways he didn't expect. Showing you how humans have grown, Hajin answered. We learned from the past, did you? The battle started. Space lit up with weapons fire. But this time, Earth's ships didn't just fight. They danced. They moved in ways that mixed old tactics with new technology. Admiral, her captain shouted. Their flagship is opening fire. Hajin didn't flinch as huge energy beams shot toward the Star Defender. She had seen this before. She knew what to do. Activate the shield mirrors, she ordered. The Star Defender's new shields caught the enemy fire and sent it back, something that was impossible 300 years ago. The Concordat ships weren't ready for their own weapons to be turned against them. Impossible. The enemy commander shouted as his ships started exploding. No, Hajin said. Not impossible. Inevitable. Humans don't stay weak. We grow. We learn. We come back stronger. She turned to her crew. All weapons ready. Show them what Earth can do now. The Star Defender's main cannon fired. But it wasn't just energy. It was a new weapon that combined Admiral Sunma's knowledge with modern science. The beam cut through the enemy fleet like light through darkness. Fall back. The enemy commander ordered his ships. Full retreat. Hajin watched as the silver ships turned away from Earth. They ran, just like they had run from Sunma long ago. But this time, she wasn't going to die to make them leave. Send the message, she ordered. Every Concordat ship received the same words. Earth is protected. If you return, you will face not just our weapons, but our will to survive. Remember this defeat. Remember that humans are not your slaves. We are your equals, and we will always fight back. The enemy fleet vanished into deep space. On Earth, people came out of their shelters, looking up at a sky now free of silver ships. He-Jin's phone buzzed again. Messages from her classmates, her teachers, from people all over the world. They knew who she was now. They understood what she had always been. "Take us home," she told her captain. The Star Defender turned toward Earth. He-Jin smiled, feeling complete. She was both the schoolgirl and the admiral, both the Jin and Sunmei. And she had saved her world. Again. 1 month after the battle, He-Jin walked into her classroom. Everything was different now, but also the same. Students still sat at their desks. Teachers still wrote on boards. But now, everyone knew who she really was. "Good morning, Admiral," some students said as she passed. Just He-Jin at school, she reminded them with a smile. "Save Admiral for when I'm on the Star Defender." She sat at her desk, between Mina and Jiho. They had stayed her closest friends, even after everything changed. Da-hyun sat nearby, no longer a bully but not quite a friend yet. He was trying to be better, and that was enough. "Did you see the news?" Mina asked. "They're building a space academy. They want you to teach there sometimes." He-Jin nodded. "Earth needs to be ready. The Concordat won't come back soon, but there are other dangers in space. We need more defenders." The teacher walked in, carrying a new history book. On its cover was a picture of the Star Defender fighting the silver ships. He-Jin's own face was there too, both as Admiral Sunmei from 300 years ago, and as herself now. "Today's lesson is different," the teacher announced. "We have a special guest speaker for our class on space warfare and defense tactics." Everyone looked at He-Jin. She stood up, no longer shy or afraid. She walked to the front of the room, remembering how she used to hide from these same classmates. "History is strange," she began. "Sometimes it repeats, sometimes it gives us second chances. 300 years ago, I died protecting Earth. But I came back, because the fight wasn't over." She drew on the board, showing battle formations and ship movements. The same things she used to doodle when everyone thought she was just daydreaming. "But the most important lesson isn't about fighting," she continued. "It's about growing. Humans survived because we learned. We got stronger. We never gave up." Da-hyun raised his hand. Do you hate us? For how we treated you before?" He-Jin looked at him kindly. "No, you helped make me stronger too. Sometimes the hardest battles teach us the most important lessons." After class, He-Jin went to the roof with Mina and Jiho. It was their special place now. From here, they could see the Star Defender in orbit, its white hull shining in the sunlight. "The Space Academy wants us too," Mina said. "They say we showed real talent during the evacuation." "You did," He-Jin agreed. "You'll make great officers." Her phone buzzed. General Park was calling. "Admiral, we're detecting some strange signals from deep space. Not the Concordat, but something else." He-Jin finished. "I'll be right there." She looked at her friends. "Want to come? The Star Defender has room for 2 more crew members." They grinned and nodded. Together, they left the school and headed for the military base. Students and teachers waved as they passed. No one laughed anymore. No one called her names. In the car, He-Jin thought about everything that had changed. She was still a student, still learning math and science, but she was also Earth's defender, teaching others how to protect their world. "What do you think is out there?" Jiho asked as they drove. "More challenges, more battles maybe," He-Jin said. "But this time, we face them together. And this time," she smiled, feeling both her lives in perfect balance. "This time we're ready." The Star Defender waited above, its engines humming with power. Earth's first line of defense, commanded by a girl who was once bullied for dreaming about space. He-Jin looked up at her ship, then at her friends, then at the school behind them. She was no longer torn between 2 lives. She was just herself. He-Jin and Sunmi together, a student and an admiral, a defender of Earth in any lifetime. And somewhere in the deep darkness between stars, New adventures waited. But that was okay. After all, she had done the impossible twice already. What was once more? The end.